And welcome to episode 85. Woot, woot, woot. We are on episode 85. As you notice, John is not here today. We have a good friend of mine that runs another thing, not a podcast, a streaming service and a painting service. One of my good friends, Yeji. She will be here with us talking about Chibis and everything associated with Chibis, and also what she's planning on doing not only at Gen Con but at Warfare Weekend. Kathy is going to try to keep us on track because we'll just get kind of crazy and weird and silly.
Because I am so organized.
Yeah, like we run a professional podcast. We are going to be talking about Chibis and stuff, but before we do that, we need to get through some traditions and some shout outs. Guys, we want to thank everybody for listening and watching. For those that are watching, make sure that on most weeknights, John will be on Facebook Live streaming his hobby streak. I think he's almost up to 600. I'm not sure. The guy's a madman when it comes to his hobby streak. And also every Tuesday through Friday, make sure you join Kathy from 3 to 5.
3 to 5 Central.
3 to 5 Central, where she'll be working on whatever she feels like working on because she's cool like that. Also, we want to thank all of our sponsors. Tectonic Craft Studios for supplying some models and discount codes and all this other stuff for giveaways and helping us out and providing some really cool stuff for us and supporting us in many different ways. We also want to thank Muse on Minis. Don't forget, if you want anything from Muse on Minis, make sure you use our discount code More Than Dice, all one word. You'll get 10% off your order. Also, that helps us out for things that we can use the money for. But they provide some good quality products, and you should see some new stuff coming from them shortly. We also want to thank Mechanica Studios for hosting and selling some of our products, what we have, which you should have a link pop up soon to buy some of our stuff. But also, we're going to be doing a giveaway for Mechanica Studios. I will probably be posting the information on that, where you can get it and provide that thing that we're going to ask you to do. Mechanica Studios is going to be giving away one of their Star Wars Legion trays.
We're asking them to do a thing.
Yes, we're going to be asking them to do a thing. What the contest is you not only do you have to like our podcast, be a follower or whatever, but you have to comment on the post. And we're going to ask you, what is your dream combat, scenario that you would love to see, but it can't be one that's already happened. For example, one of the ones we thought would be interesting would be Twi'lek Dancer versus Slave Leia, and find out who won and how they beat each other up and stuff, and give us a quick description. So we're going to ask you to do some silly stuff and comment in that way. That way we can see it, and then we'll decide a winner for the best one. And Mechanic Studios will give away one of his Star Wars Legion trays. Other than that, we want to thank all of y'all that are on our Patreon page, that are our Facebook followers, Twitch, you name it. We appreciate everything you do. And if you have a Amazon Prime account, reach up there, hit that subscribe button. It's free for your first one. So that would help us out a ton. Other than that, Kathy, do we have any shout-outs we need to do for anybody that's passed away or anything? Do we know?
I feel like we should, but I didn't really keep track. So,
I didn't see anything off the top of my head. Doesn't mean that we don't see anybody. It's just don't know. Other than that, tonight, while we're talking about chibi stuff, I'm gonna be working on some conquest models and a conquest model.
You hear the beeping? That's my timer that my husband had set for the tea to steep.
For the tea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be working on some conquest stuff because the game is due to hit the shelves any minute. And Yeji, I think, is gonna be working on some chibi stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right. Kathy, what you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking tea now.
Because you drank all your alcohol during the pre-ramble, right?
And my Malibu fizzy pink lemonade, which has Caribbean rum with coconut liquor. It's delicious.
Delish. Yeji, what you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking water.
Water? Boy, you're high rolling it tonight, aren't you?
Yep.
It's okay.
We don't. I am finishing off the last of my Ben 47 port. Finishing that off tonight because it was the last bit and they needed to finish it off and get rid of the bottle. So, to all of our friends, all of our listeners, and everything, thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's good. All right, so let me go and switch over to our paint cam because Yeji and I both are going to paint at the same time. We're going to test this out. So while Yeji may take a second to switch over to her paint cam, we're going to get up.
Maybe.
Should take a second.
Hooray, I see Chibi.
Yeah.
Is that Storm?
No, it's not. It's Seti from Midnight Heroes, but right now I just have her skin base coated in her eyes, so that's why she kind of does look like Storm.
It does.
It does look good. So you're going to be working on that, Chibi. I am actually going to be working on the Pharaohmancer for Conquest, just so we know that this guy is part of a unit and buffs and does stuff for units, blah, blah, blah. Really cool miniature. I'm going to paint him sort of similar to like I did the Brute.
That's very white.
It is. And I hate that because this white just washes out so bad and I can't fix it. But the cloth is going to be that turquoise from that arithmetic blue. And
Achillean? No.
Aethermatic. Aether.
Oh, so it's...
Like a turquoise.
Yeah, which is different from Achillean blue, which is, teal.
Yeah. And then I'm going to do, of course, the bone for the bone parts and just snake bite leather, blah, blah, blah. Other than that, Yeji, what are you going to be working on? What is that exactly?
So it's Midnight Heroes, one of our sponsors, actually. It's their pirate chibi, and her name is Sedi, Sedi. So if you go on their website, midnightheroes.com, I believe, you'll be able to find a lot of their stuff. One of their painted ones on there actually is one that I've done recently as well. So I just kind of really love chibis.
Well, good, because that's what we're going to be talking about today, and getting that going through. So, Yeji,
Yeah,
I've known you for a little bit, and we've talked back and forth and everything and such, but tell us who you are, what you do, tell us everything about, because you actually have a streaming service and blah, 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 blah. Give us some background of who you are.
Oh, man. So how far back do you want it? Like birth,
We don't
you
care.
know?
I'll tell you, you have an hour, or actually, hold on. You have 50 minutes, so you may go with what you want.
I'm kidding. So I started first of all, I'm Yeji. I'm part of a 2-person painting studio called Snickernack Studios. And we stream on Twitch as well as do a lot of commission work. But we first got started back in 2011 when Clint got me painting and playing Warhammer 40K. So that's when we first, I got my first taste of model painting. Before that, my dad's an artist, and so I had done, all sorts of 2D stuff, like from painting to pastels and all of that. And then I realized I don't really like the playing aspect because I kind of become a rules lawyer. Yep. And I'm like, no, this page, this here, right, says blah, 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 blah. So I found, I wasn't enjoying it, and other people weren't enjoying it. So I turned more to the art side, and I've been painting kind of off and on since. And then back in 2015 was when we started up actual, commission service and Snickernack Studios. And then this month, actually, we're reaching our July 17th is actually our 1-year stream anniversary. So we're celebrating all month on Twitch, kind of doing giveaways and stuff. So yeah, it's been a really, really weird ride.
It is, because we came up on our year and we were like, what the hell? Because we're coming up on our 100th episode, and we're just like, this 100 episodes, this is kind of
yeah,
weird.
I mean, you got to do something epic for 100, man.
Yeah.
I think we'll drink. I think we'll drink really heavily. I think that's what we'll do. What do you think, Kathy? You think we should just drink?
I think that's like every episode,
Ah, damn
so
it.
I don't see anything extra special about that.
Damn it.
But and then and then I started teaching back in 2016 at starting at LVO, and I've been kind of doing the full teaching circuit this year, which kind of got me excited and a little scared. You know how that is, a little bit of imposter syndrome going on.
Sure.
and so I'll be teaching at upcoming cons, Gen Con, ReaperCon, and Warfare Weekend and that'll close out the end of the year.
Yep, that's pretty much what our con is about. The end of the year stuff. Okay. Now you said we, and you said Clint, but what? I mean, why are we talking about Chibi and not him not being out here talking about Chibi? Is he not all into the Chibi? Does he not care about us?
He's like okay on Chibi, but he's at work. Because he works swing shifts. No, not today. Today's Sunday. What am I talking about? He's at the game store playing Infinity.
Of course. That's
yeah,
perfect.
So usually he's at work, which is why I thought he was at work. But no, he's over at the game store playing Infinity.
Gotcha.
So that's why he's not on with us tonight. And he's more of an Infinity and like sci-fi enthusiast versus the Chibi stuff. Like he's like, on Chibi, but one of our friends deemed me Queen Chibi, and so now I'm like, I'm not called Queen Chibi for nothing,
Right?
Yep. My head's gotten a little big along with the Chibis, so, that's what it is.
I mean, it's only fitting, right?
Exactly, right?
I have exactly one. Here's my one Chibi. I'll hold it up to the screen, so I don't know if you'll, if you'll get to see it. This is one of those ones from
it's Cerberus.
Yeah. So he's just in his sort of
Is that the Impact one?
No, this is what do you call it? That Cool Mini or Not
game.
The
Arcadia Quest.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a sea of Nurgle facing me right now, and some Dark Sword, and some Reaper, and some, Space Marine-y stuff, and...
Well, you're also going to take that Pop and Nurgle it up, right? Didn't you say we were going to do that?
Oh, yeah. I got him. He's on my desk. This guy.
Yeah, the Space Marine Pop.
I'm gonna totally Nurgle this guy up. That'll be fun. I need to actually sit down and design that, though. That's not something where I can just grab some green stuff and just start going. I got to figure out. I have to plot and plan that project. So, but I'll be doing that live on my stream once I get it figured out what I want to do with it.
Gotcha. So let's talk about what is Chibi.
Okay, Chibi is it's kind of from Japan. It's very based off of the anime style. Some people call it super deformed. I don't like calling it that because that just kind of makes it feel like you're trying to downgrade it, right? And it's mainly an artistic style where the head is almost the same size as the whole body. So the head's really big, really cute features, really big eyes, kind of a derivative off of like a small child. Like, you know how kids have like bigger heads and smaller bodies, like proportionately and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the Chibi thing comes from.
Gotcha. So anything that has a really big head and a small body is Chibi.
Mm-hmm, pretty much. That's the most simple definition. I haven't been able to English the last couple of weeks.
That's okay. We talk gooder here.
We talk real good. Okay. So here's my thing. There's a lot of people that like Chibi because it's super cute.
Yep.
And super thing. But this is just going pure stereotype because I had someone tell me this just recently that only girls like Chibis, and you know, if you like this, it's just a girl thing. Now,
mean,
I didn't blow up at him, but I can understand where that stereotype, and I'm putting the stereotype in quotes, where that comes from. But
yeah, I get that too. I'm just gonna put this here. Then if you like Funko Pops, you like Chibis too. So, just to burst your bubble.
correct. Because that was another thing I was going with. Funko Pops are a chibi style, I guess you could say. Because they do all have huge heads and they all have small bodies and so on and so forth. So, are Funko Pops chibis?
Yes.
Okay. If Funko Pops are chibis, and what you're painting is a chibi, are there different style of chibis?
Oh yeah, there's differences in, because a lot of Western culture has adopted chibis too, like in the cartoon world and whatnot. So there's always going to be different types of chibis. In the end of the day, yep, we are just little dollies. Sorry, I lost my train of thought now.
Different style of chibis.
Yeah, there are style of chibis. Like there's another company out there called Cartoon Miniatures that'll do like almost like caricatures of movie things. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but those are chibis as well. Like it's just there's more. So like for example, Soda Pop is more of an Eastern style, like an Asian style of chibi. Arcadia Quest is more of a Western cartoonized style of chibis. The Midnight Heroes is very anime influenced. So it's just, you can get it from different influences. All it really has to be is like just super extra cute, and usually just the big head, smaller body.
Okay. Now, one of the classes you're going to be teaching at Warfare Weekend is everything chibis. So what is everything chibis though? I mean, because I understand there's a cute thing and whatever, but what makes it that's going to be different from painting? Because there's got to be a different way you paint or style your chibis, or that's just painting a model.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what's different about that?
with everything chibi, I kind of go over the history of chibis a little bit as well in class, and then definitely go over the different styles, because you can do a couple of different styles with chibis. Gonzo, you watch anime, so you kind of know the cell shaded style, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So you can do a cell shaded style with chibis fairly easily. You can do kind of I like to think chibis is more bright, bold colors, because the detail is a lot harder to see than sometimes even 28 millimeter stuff, right? So, like, especially like when it comes to the body parts. So I use bright, bold colors quite a bit. And then you can also put in a lot more texture onto chibis, because like for this hair, even though it is textured and it has these strands, right? There's still these broad expanses like here and like here that you can actually put in your own texturing into, that a lot of people usually don't do in just regular miniature painting, like a lot of miniature painting. And now it's changing a little bit where, people are doing that, hashtag fuck smoothness, and things like that. So it is changing, but we all look for very smooth blends and stuff. And as a chibi, you don't really necessarily have to do that, because there are so many broader areas.
Well, okay, now like one of the things I noticed that, we're talking about on chibis is the eyes. Mm-hmm. Is there like a painting style or something that has to do with just the eyes?
Yes, because it's the main focus of the mini. And if you don't get the eyes right, like, it just looks kind of off. So yeah, there are certain rules, like, to an eye that I'll say, but that's for you to learn in class.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Because I mean, if you're because I'm looking at it from someone's outside. I've never painted anything chibi, just never been. I collect some Funko Pops and I know what it is, and I don't have a problem with it. But I've never painted anything chibi wise. So I was like, painting an eye chibi wise. Well, what the hell? Okay. I mean, which is, the reason why you're teaching one of the classes, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I figured it would just be, okay, here's the black, here's the white, done, type thing. So,
Yeah, no, like, and I'm painting the eye right now, right? Like,
uh-huh.
you can't just leave it just black like this. Like, there's things that you have to do with it. You
can,
more
but it
of the-
doesn't look right to use what
No,
you're
it
saying.
doesn't look right. And there's different ways to make the eyes. Like, I actually sat down and did a whole study on anime eyes, like, just to get different expressions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For painting them in 3D. Like I do a study on just drawing them, just 2D drawing them.
So, with that said, why Chibis over other models?
I love other models too. I mean,
Yeah, I know,
but
I
it's
mean,
just for me, it's the cute factor.
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do that.
And I love, like, I've always doodled eyes, so it's just one of those things. I can make them as expressive as I want them. I can make them just more colorful. 28 millimeter, you can only get so much color onto those little tiny little areas, right?
Yep.
Like none, pretty much.
Yeah. You get like 2 bristles and then just boop. But for chibi eyes, you can get them super expressive just in the way that you do the placement of them, and experiment with different color combinations and just have fun with it.
Now, is there any paint you recommend for chibis? Is there anything that you like? Oh, like this stuff is really good for what you're doing, or is it just pretty much any paint you like?
Any paints you like. I mean, I would say try not to go with the craft paints just because it does make it a little bit harder to do the eyes with craft paints, I think, texture-wise.
Ooh, phone buzzing. Kathy.
I should have warned you about this. Damn it. I'm so
What?
sorry.
Warned you about what?
My internet just dropped.
Oh, did it?
It might be okay on your guys' end. Okay.
You couldn't have dropped
Seems
because you're
fine.
talking to us.
It dropped for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
We're
like,
used to that.
our internet's been like crazy, and our ISP is like, yeah, just take a photo of whenever it happens. Well, it's been a hell of a fight for the past like 2 weeks.
Crimson 1919 wants to ask. Well, there's one. Can you just slather a chibi with contrast paints? Have you tried the contrast paint, by the way?
I have not tried the contrast paints. You could. There is a little bit less detail, as I said. Like with some of the sculpts, they're really great, right? Like with this one, you probably could slap some contrast paint and get some of these details still done right. But there are some things like some of the Arcadia quests, just because of the plastic that they're made with, you won't get that many details in it, or it's really textured already. The sculpt is textured. Like, excuse me, for a cloak, they'll have like cross hatching in the texture of the sculpt. And so sometimes that's difficult to use contrast paint with, just because sometimes paint will get, into the crevices where you maybe don't want it to be. So.
What's the challenge of painting a chibi over painting just a normal miniature?
Eyes.
Eyes. You think the eyes is what's the difficult part?
I think so, because otherwise you're kind of, it's the same thing, right, as painting a regular miniature, but if you don't get the eyes down right, it looks off. Whether it's the positioning, if you don't put the reflective dots in there, it looks like a dead eye.
Dead eyes.
Yeah. So I think eyes are both the most exciting and most painful things to paint for chibi. Which is why I always keep fiddling with it, even though, like, whenever I paint.
Well, I noticed that you have the miniature you have right now. Did you do like a Zenithal style highlighting on that?
I did, because this was for class and it's a leftover from class.
Okay.
But, which I think I'm going to have, think I'm going to have this model for class at Warfare Weekend. Yeah. I was planning out the model, but so I zenithal it just so it's easier for people to kind of see it during class, as well as to kind of explain how zenithal works and things like that.
Gotcha. So you're part of, and what I think is funny is whenever I first started emailing you for things, because you're teaching classes at Warfare Weekend. Why? Because I'd wanted to call y'all Snicker Snacks. Because the way it looks, it's just my brain automatically goes to Snicker Snacks.
Yep.
What's the story behind your name, and why is it like this?
So we've had to tell this story multiple times on our channel as well, because everyone calls a Snicker Snack, right?
Yes.
And I don't blame you guys, because Snicker Snack goes the Vorpal Blade. There's just no Vorpal Blades here. So one day I was playing Zombicide with a couple of friends of mine.
We don't know about Zombicide at all. None of us have ever played it before.
And we were playing that, and one of our friends was in another room, and he was getting just beat down by a zombie, and I was just running around collecting loot, and so I was just snickering, and he goes, "Don't be a snicker neck," and I'm like, "What the hell?" We just stopped for a second. I'm like, "What the hell is a snicker neck?" And he's like, "I don't know. You're just snickering." And you're like, "Hee hee hee," and like, I don't know. So I was like, "Oh, you know what? That'd be kind of cool if it's like a snicker," and because I snicker quite a bit, and like a knack for something, so that's why it became Snicker Knack.
Gotcha. Kathy, do you paint a lot of, not for your personal, but I know that you've done some commission stuff. Have you been commissioned to do chibi type stuff?
Never.
Never.
No, all I have is, like I said, I have that one Arcadia Quest guy.
Mm-hmm.
The Cerberus, which is actually, it's not really, I wouldn't call it a chibi, it has a big head, but it doesn't have the big eyes, and I want to paint the big eyes. I haven't ever had a chance to do that.
So if anybody's listening, Cassie's looking for some commission work to paint chibi stuff. No. So why are you teaching classes? Because you and I have talked about this before, but it's not easy work teaching classes at all. It's not like I just go up there and sit there and talk and just show you, because you've got a lot of things you have to think about whenever you decide you want to travel to, paint for a class. Is this just, hey, I'm just going to go out here and you're going to make a ton of money doing this, right?
I wish. I wish I made $1 million every time I went to go be invited to teach classes, or
Wait. You don't just automatically get your classes?
No.
What do you mean? I thought, since you're a commissioned painter, it just automatically assumed. What I'm trying to get at is there are a lot of people that have a lot of misconceptions of what it takes to be a commissioned painter and and go to conventions and teach classes that you're just going to make, well, I'm paying $50 for this class and she's got 50 people in here. She's making bank today. And then, she's going to take down all this money, and I'm sure they pay for everything for her. So she's just going to be making tons of money, and, they'll just let her do everything. And it's something I want to bring up because that came up recently with me about, you should be paying these people, tons of money to do this, and you're not. Run us through what it takes to be a commission painter, not just chibi, but that's what you are teaching. But what takes it, what does it take to be a commission painter and go teach someplace else? Because do you have another job besides this?
Oh, no. In April, commission painting became my full-time thing. Okay. Commission painting and Twitch streaming became my full-time thing. So, along with one other aspect, and I'll expand on that. But
no, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, just like any other job, you think it's kind of like a cushy thing. Oh, like you're doing what you love for a living and whatnot, and that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
but it's not. As an art, it is difficult because there's still people out there that think that instead of this mini painting, especially as an art, they think of it more of as a hobby still. So you're still going to get things from that. So it's more like 5 full-time jobs within the aspect of a commission painter, right? Because you have to be a social media marketer, you have to be a business, planner, you have to be a painter. Like and then like part of for us, like we're streaming it. Part of it is me going out and teaching at cons. Another part of it that I'm trying to build up to is appraisal. So, because I was in the insurance world prior to going full time with this, and appraising minis, because that's when you get into going with home insurance stuff, like it's weird.
Hey, Governor Scotty.
But yeah, it's something that, and that's kind of why I had imposter syndrome, as I said earlier, was I kind of fell into the teaching thing a little bit. So my background prior to all the painting stuff, I started tutoring when I was in 5th grade. I was going to, I was 2 credits shy of, or a couple credits shy of getting a minor in education in college. So education has been a really big part of my life. And I love that moment when someone, when you're teaching someone something and they're just like, oh man, I get it,
Yeah.
So I love that moment. And so I kind of wanted to start teaching, and it kind of came up with mini painting because a couple of years ago, Wargamer Consortium kind of, after Chung had his heart attack, just kind of went a little crazy with LVO. And LVO is Las Vegas Open, and it's a convention here in my town because I live in Vegas. So Aaron had asked me, he was like, hey, can you take this class? Because there was supposed to be a Chibi class and nobody else could make it. And so I was like, okay, let me try this, and Lynn and Aaron were teaching 16-hour days that year when I first started teaching at LVO, because there were no other teachers. It was crazy. I'm like, how are you guys surviving?
That just sounds horrifying.
Yeah. And so I took that class as well as another class and taught there. The first time I was teaching, I was literally like this. I was like, okay, guys, so this is how you paint an eye. And I'm shaking like this. And it's paint's going everywhere. And they're like, you sure? They're looking at me a little quizzically. And I'm like, yeah, you can always clean it up. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
But it was pretty funny. And then from there, ReaperCon had an open call one year. And so I submitted, hey, this is a class that I want to teach, along with here's my examples. So yeah, there's some times where you can have, where some conventions will have open calls for artists because it matched with other cons and some people couldn't make it, so they had an open call. Otherwise, you actually do, have to be invited or know someone that can introduce you to the event organizer and can kind of put a bug in their ear for you, I guess.
I thought you just showed up and you got it. I mean, because Gen Con has so many classes that they let everybody teach, right?
That would be the life.
Ha! Ha ha!
Okay, so what does it take to actually do a class? And I'm talking about from start to end, from planning to whatever, because I think there's this misconception that you get everything and you get every bit of money that you charge and so on and so forth. So I don't have to. I don't want you to cite certain cons or whatever because it's all different from everywhere.
Yeah.
But what do you have to do to think about painting at a convention?
So for the first thing, you have to have an idea of what you want to teach, right? Otherwise, what's the point? There's after you choose what you want to teach, you have to make sure you have models for the class.
Well, wait a minute. Whoa. Back up here. You mean you have to supply a model for someone to teach? I thought you just watched me and I just went over stuff and you just went, oh, okay, that's how it's done.
I mean, there's some people that do that, and there's some classes that do that. There's if you're planning on teaching, and those are called demo classes. A lot of the times, airbrush classes are like that because sometimes you can't have that many airbrushes, and like setup is all a little bit more of a headache. But mostly for hands-on classes, which is what I teach, I will provide a model. I will provide paints in case there's only a couple of conventions that'll give teachers a whole set of paints to go use.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, due to either their budget or, they're a company that makes those paints.
Gotcha.
And you can, so there's different ways that you can go about it, right? You can ask a company to sponsor your classes and provide minis. You can ask a lot of companies will be more than happy to either help you either at cost or kind of like that because you're doing that and putting this class together and kind of helping them market a little bit to your students. Or like for my FLGS, they've sponsored classes before. And that's just, kind of, we have their cards and stuff out, and they're kind of supportive of, the artists and their home community and stuff like that. So we've had stuff like that happen.
Crimson 1919 has a question because he thought you got that for free for being showered with sponsorships. I mean, people just give you models, and you just automatically, you have probably like, 15 to $20 million companies that just want to give you models all the time, right?
There are some awesome companies that if you ask and you say, like, this is what I can bring to your table, then they'll help you out with stuff, right? Or if it's a company that you started out with helping them out, from when they first started. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, Brian sponsors all my Chibi classes. Brian. He gets Brian from Midnight Heroes.
Okay, that's what we're at.
So, yeah, Midnight Heroes sponsors all my Chibi classes. And he's amazing. He gives them to me for free so that I can use them in class. He usually will give me even a code for people to buy their models at like a % discount, right? Uh-huh. So there are some companies that if you ask them, and some of these companies are just, they're small one-person companies, Yeah. And they'll do that. Other companies, you have to pay at cost for the mini. It's just what you kind of discuss with the company itself. There's not companies going like, here's my minis, go out there with them for free exposure. Like, they're artists themselves too, right? Like, you can't just work just on exposure by itself, right? So...
Well, the reason why I point this is and the reason why I'm asking you this question is this isn't all for free, and you just don't get everything handed to you. You've got costs associated with everything. I mean, do you get your room and board paid for every single time you go somewhere?
No, it depends on the con. So there's some cons that will help you out with certain things. There's other cons, and that's just the cost of business. Like, there's certain cons that you just kind of, from the money, and that's what I expect from a con. It's like, it's just a cost of business that I'm supposed to pay for my way to get there. And then if that covers, the most that I can kind of ask for is to recoup the cost from the classes. That's my expectation, I guess.
Well, don't you get every bit of money that you charge for your class?
Oh, no.
What do you mean?
For most classes, for most conventions, the convention itself has to pay for the room. Like, that's just the cost of business. So at least a portion is taken out. Some cons, it's smaller. Other cons, it's a lot bigger. So that's why sometimes, like, especially for like the Las Vegas ones, you might say the cost's a little bit higher, and that's because it's the cost of Las Vegas. Like, that's just the cost of the room.
So Crimson 19 says, so what I'm hearing is that I should tell my boss off tomorrow and start living the life of a high-rolling miniature painting teacher.
Oh, man. I wish.
Well, because you are coming to the Warfare Weekend, which I instantly, whenever we were doing painting and things, and saying that we were going to have teachers and paying teachers at the convention, they're letting them charge for the classes. I immediately thought of you because you're one of the few painters I know that do chibi, and we're friends and blah blah blah, and there was more than just come paint at my convention, because I had to learn some of the ins and outs and so on and so forth about this, and I knew you're not living the high roller life. You're not a studio painter. You're not employed with a large corporation per se to do this, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of misconception about what goes on as a convention painter or teacher or commission. I mean, Kathy's talked about this before, and we've gone over the subject about it's not all glam and glitz and everything works.
Oh no, yeah.
And even the life of a studio painter is also not high rolling by any stretch.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we're not saying that they are. I'm just saying
that might be more well known amongst your tiny niche of a niche of a niche of miniature painting.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. This isn't. You're.
And you may get some free models.
Yeah.
All your models aren't free.
Bonus.
Okay, so let's go back to painting conventions. You said that you pimp out people to try to get you models to paint at the convention.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, if you're lucky, the convention will have paints for you. But what happens if they don't? How are you getting this stuff through and to the convention? Because, of course, if you're doing something that's not local, you're going to have to most likely fly, I'm guessing, right?
Yes.
How are you getting...
Xander says, okay, I might want to be taking the Chibi model class at Warfare Weekend, you mean, Xander? Or, seriously?
Dude, come out.
Do it!
We will have class. We will have tickets coming up soon. So, they're not ready yet, but we're trying to get that. We got to get a few more things, and we'll get that. We'll do a countdown, of course.
And yeah, I'd love to see you guys there. Even if it's not just for actual classes, sit down, chat for painting-wise, I'm always down for that.
Yeah. So, Crimson actually says, you spelled warfare wrong, Xander. I don't like you no more. Crimson 1919. So, as a commission painter, do you have an unpaid intern that you use to clean your mold lines?
I wish.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let's go to the commission paint real quick, and let's go back. I want to commission you to paint model, whatever. Do I need to do all the work for it and just let you paint it? What is usually happens? I love you too, Xander. I mean, what is the typical procedure? I mean, what happens from your perspective? We know Kathy, and we've talked about hers, but I mean, your chibis are a whole different. A lot of them are single pieces, right?
Oh, yeah. So it depends on what I discuss with the customer, right? And this is even just for our regular, not just chibis, just kind of everything in general. Mm-hmm. Usually I like to say that I like them unassembled, untouched, so that I can determine what I have to do with it and whatnot. Gotcha. If they're already assembled and you send them to me, if there's no mold lines, unless you specifically state, or unless we have this discussion that you want those mold lines removed, if you just send them to me already pre-assembled, I'm going to paint them as is. Because you must have been happy with the way that they look. That's the way they're going to be painted. If we had this discussion, hey, this is one of the questions that I ask, hey, do you want the mold lines removed? If you send them to us, they're already automatically going to get the mold lines removed. If they're assembled and sent to us, do you want them removed or not? And we already had this expectation discussion, right? So if it's sent to us, we'll remove the mold lines. That's all included in the pricing that we quote you. The paintings included, any bubbles to be filled, that's already included. And then small basing, so any standard basing, like a little tuft of grass or kind of like a texture base or something like that. Unless we discuss extra basing stuff, that's always included in our costs.
I wanted to interrupt just real quick. Mm-hmm. Hey, Kathy, I've been playing with this Blood Angel red contrast paint.
I see that.
Very, very good for blood. Mm-hmm. very, very, very good for blood. I've been using it and putting it over the yellow, but I took that, what is it? The Dark Oath Flesh and put it in after it's dried, and it gives it a really dark, deep, deep blood red look. So, heads up, you may want to kind of play with that a little bit. So I kind of curious what you think about this. It does a really good gory blood look.
Did you not watch my streams when I was testing out the contrast paint?
Kathy, do I ever have time to watch everybody's stream all the time?
They're archived videos.
Do I have time?
Right here.
There's still not enough time, Kathy. There's still not enough time.
Oh, sure, but you have time to watch the 3rd season of Stranger Things.
Yes, because I need a downtime. What's sad is...
No, I did use that Dark Angels color, and it was over yellow even.
Was it?
And I really liked it. Yeah, there's the Space Marine right here.
I really like the way it looks as a blood.
You can't see because, it's tiny and... Look at the Space Marine. And it looks like ass on here. But, it kind of looks like ass in real life, honestly. But I am not using the contrast paints because, for me, as a creature of habit, who is comfortable with the way that I'm painting right now for the first time ever, I am not going to spend a shit ton of time learning how to paint another different way. And that's what I felt like I was doing when I was testing out those paints. It was just nuts for me to try and figure that stuff. And then I've got Jim in the other room doing 50 hours of freaking YouTube live videos. Not even an exaggeration.
Contrast paints and doing non-metallic metals with contrast paints on top of it.
All crazy fun things with them.
That kind of makes sense because they're kind of contrast paints are kind of like a mix between glaze and ink, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense.
Well, I mean, it was just very interesting because I was looking and I was seeing Jim's work and I was like, holy crap, he just took contrast paints and made non-metallic metal out of them.
But I mean, that's Jim. He can do it with 2 brush hairs and something comes out freaking amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. I had a lot of friends that were talking about that. They were like, did you see what he did with the contrast paints? And I'm like, yes, he's a god. Leave him alone. He's just awesome with those things. But I mean, because there are a lot of people that still dog contrast paints, which I don't understand. But I think that's stupid to dog contrast paints.
Oh, Clint hates them.
Yeah.
He's played around with them and he hates them.
But there's a lot of... He's shown that there is potential with them, and that's what I like.
Yeah.
There's some really cool stuff you can do with it. Okay, so let's go back to commission, because so you got a company that sponsors you with the minis. You got your paint. How are you going to travel with those paints?
So I just put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in my... I sometimes put it, or the last time I traveled with them, I put him in my carry-on, going to Adepticon, and then I decided that I didn't like that, so I just put him in on the way back. I put him in my other luggage. I was like, I can't find the word.
That suitcase type thing you put your clothes in. Yeah.
Yes. That you put in the cargo hold.
Yeah.
And not
your suitcase. You just put them in your suitcase.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And when you come home, they'll kind of explode on you a little bit. But I mean, you just do what you have to do.
Crimson 19 asks, is the dental plan for commission painters amazing, right?
Oh yeah, super amazing.
Oh man, health insurance. What's that?
Okay, so you've got everything packed, you've got everything ready, you've got your chibis, you're going to do the convention painting, so on and so forth, and you're ready and you're at your class. You just say, hey, I'm going to teach Chibis, and you know what you're going to teach Chibis, so you don't make a lesson plan or discussion or nothing. You're just good to go, right?
I always update my lesson plan after every class that I go do. So I have a whole handout. I have places where you can take notes. I have little drawings that I've done. So it's so that people have something to like hold and take back, because there's only so much you can absorb when you're actually in a class, right? Because you're also probably taking 5 other classes along with it. So I always have a handout, always has my contact information on there too, in case you have any questions afterwards. I'm always happy to, help you critique stuff and whatnot.
And how much do you charge per hour for those questions?
I don't.
What?
I should. I really should, but I don't. Unless we do private lessons. But like quick little things right now, we don't charge for, and that's what we do on our Good to Great Fridays. So on our streams every second and fourth Friday of the month, we'll sit down and have a whole feedback session of like people just post photos into our Discord or post their Instagram things, and we'll sit down and kind of go, hey, like this might be part that you want to improve on. This might be a new technique to kind of practice for you, things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you don't just teach just chibi stuff, right?
No, I teach everything. I teach, so Warfare Weekend, I'm doing the chibi class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing now you're
Haha, gotcha.
hurting my memory. Man.
I'm not looking it up. You got to look it up.
Gonzo. Yeah, I have my email up right here. As long as my internet works. Okay, so I am doing everything chibi. I am doing from good to great, so that's our kind of basics, how to get something from just, okay, that's good, to, hey, that looks great from 3 feet away. And that goes over some of the basics like dry brushing, black lining, washing, how to make your own wash, things like that. Non-traditional skin tones. And that's like for, vampires, doing undertone stuff, doing orc skin. So just a bunch of different things with that, doing veins underneath skin, and then freehand. So just my basics of freehand class, where we'll go over how to do freehand, how to approach it and not be intimidated by it. So yeah.
So you don't just teach chibi, because I mean that's just just kind of weird just to teach chibi.
I mean, if I could teach chibi and fill 5 classes for a weekend, like that'd be awesome. But chibi still has a little bit of a stigma, I think. As you said, it has the connotation of, oh, you must have to be a girl in order to like chibis, or you must have to just like cute things. No, just there's a lot of things that you can do on chibis that you can't do on 28 millimeter models. So it actually gets you a little bit more practice. So for example, like blending out on skin, you see how flat this face is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you have to sculpt your own kind of like cheekbones and highlights for the nose and things like that. So that actually helps teach you how to paint 28 millimeter faces better as well.
I could see that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So people underestimate chibis. Do not underestimate chibis.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like
Scotty says, I'm assuming there's more surface area to worry about.
Yeah.
On the face, there would be, yeah, and trying to get that transition from light to dark, mm-hmm. and transition from, one color to the next color, to look smooth as you go down the face so that it looks more natural. That would be good practice for that.
Definitely.
So, why? Okay, so you're done with your class. When you're done with your class, what happens next?
What do you mean when I'm done with my class?
You've taught your class. You're done all your classes for the day. You get paid your enormous amount of money that you requested. What's next? I mean, because you're definitely going to get paid buku bucks.
You go to the restaurant for the food because you didn't eat all day.
Yeah.
And then you get shit-faced with your friends.
So when you're not painting classes at the convention, what do you usually do?
Usually I'll sit around and I'll paint with people. Just because, I mean, for places like ReaperCon or Adepticon, there's places like Fort Wobble that Kathy and Jim kind of have like all the lights there for you, and so you just sit around, you paint, you BS with your artist friends, and you drink.
But
that's what happened.
You're going to charge people to sit there and ask you questions while you're doing this, right? Because you're off the clock and blah blah blah, right?
No.
What?
We don't charge. We don't charge. We sit around and talk for the hell of it, guys.
It's all free and fun.
But that's your job as, commission painter. So you would definitely be charging someone if they come up and ask you, hey, could you show me how to paint this on this model?
No, we
Give
don't.
me $5.
You get $5. Cheap. Now there was.
Oh yeah, I did forget one thing. I'm teaching one-on-ones.
There we go.
Oh, cool.
I was wondering when you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I got distracted.
Yeah. You are doing some one-on-one teaching, which is...
I am doing some one-on-one. So, like, we can sit and just BS and chat, right? But, like... And this is something that you kind of have to be respectful about to commission painters and to teachers, right? Like, as much as you can sit there and talk with them for free, it is kind of nice if you kind of go, hey, I just want you to teach me privately on, like, this certain thing, or... I have this model that's work in progress. What can we do to make this into a competition, mini? So doing that is going to be, it's helpful to the commission artist. You're kind of helping them with if they're a full-time, commission artist, you're helping them with their living. And I think it's kind of a respect thing too. Like, as much as like, you can, like, you're like choosing not to, and you're helping them out, I guess.
But if I were to come up to you and say, hey, I'm having problems painting this black, and you're just sitting there chilling and relaxing, and it's a social thing, you're not going to snub me and go, hey, take my one-on-one class, if you want all this. But if you're like, hey, can you just kind of help me with this? I'm kind of stuck and not sure how to do this. You're not going to,
Yeah, no, we don't snub people unless they're snubs.
Yeah, unless something else, we understand that. But I mean, if it's just casual, because I know that there were some people 1 year at Adepticon, people went and they were like, oh my God, this person's sitting there and they're painting and stuff, and I don't want to bother them. But you kind of want to be bothered to a point, of course.
Yeah.
About, because that's kind of how you get your work.
Yeah, that too. Because if you do, and sometimes if you do help them out and they like your teaching style, like, you might book more one-on-ones after the fact, right? Like, whether it's in person if they're close to you or online, because even Skype sessions actually help quite a bit because you're taking photos back and forth and picking out points and things like that. So, like, you kind of think online one-on-ones, that's a little weird, but it kind of does help you out quite a bit. But yeah, for the most part, like, as long as it's not something that's like, you're going to sit me down for 3 hours and ask me the question about a mini, like, we're more than happy to help. Like, because that's what we want to be, is an inclusive community. I want to get as many people into Chibis, as many people into painting as possible. That's just... I love this hobby. I love everyone that's in it, and I just love sharing my love for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that we're doing at Warfare Weekend is it's the first time we've had a true, and not saying we haven't had a hobby lounge, but we've had a lot of commissioned painters at this hobby lounge, and they're all going to be sitting there. And I know that some people get, because whether you like it or not, some people do get intimidated by other painters. And, oh my God, will she talk to me?
We're just people.
Yeah,
we don't fight.
Only on days ending in Y, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, at least not hard.
Not hard. Yeah. But I mean, people can come up to you and just like talk to you and, ask you questions, as long as they're doing it respectful and not, hey, like I said, 3 hours worth of painting, discussion type thing. As long as they're nice and respectful about it, you'll offer advice. Just don't be a douche about it, pretty much.
No. And like we're not even, I mean, I've been in the same situation too where I'm just like I'm afraid and intimidated, like for example, like when I first met Jim and Kathy, I'm just like, "Oh my god, Jim is like this amazing painter. Oh my god, there's Kathy." Like there's that thing of like you've watched people online or like you've heard about them and you've known about them, but they're people. Like we're all humans. It's we're nothing to be, scared of.
What Kathy is? I mean, have you seen her? She's like, she'll reach up and like throw things at you at times.
Wait, what?
What?
So, no, I mean, there is that stigma. And I saw that when I went to Adepticon, somebody was like, I don't know, should I talk to them because they're, I was like, if they tell you, hey, they can't be bothered right now, just be okay with that. But if they like to hear from other painters, especially people that are up and coming. So,
hold on just a second, guys.
No problem. We'll keep on. We'll blab. Because I found that interesting, Kathy. Because whenever I was there, at Adepticon, Erica wanted to talk to somebody about something because she's still learning how to paint and so on and so forth. And she was intimidated to go up there. And I says, and it was with Dallas, by the way. It wasn't with you. It was with Dallas. And Dallas was a studio painter, privateer press. I mean, he's well known.
I do throw things at Dallas.
Yeah. So I mean, and she was kind of intimidated, but Dallas is like, here, you should try this right here. This is probably what you're looking for. And he taught her how to do something. Now, of course, she didn't like sit there for 7 hours and ask him questions. It was like, hey, can you help me out for a second? And he was more than welcome.
He's always willing to help somebody and answer questions and meet people and stuff. He's really a good, genuine person.
Well, and the thing is most painters are, for the most part.
Yeah.
There's very, very few, because they know that if they snub you, that could be potential business or, word of mouth, because people talk type thing. So,
they sure do.
Shit. People talk quite quickly about other painters and, stuff like that. And you're like, hey, I went to go get something painted by Dallas, or I went to go get painted something by John Smith, and John Smith told me to fuck off. And I'm like, well, then just don't ever do anything with John Smith again.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too. If for example, like, and I've seen this with Lynn, and she does an amazing job with it, but like, hey, if you caught them like right before class or right in between classes, right, an artist, and you're trying to ask them a question, they might be busy too, but Lynn's amazing, and she will do something like, hey, I'm running off to class right now, but find me afterwards, we'll get back with you and we'll help you out with something. So just do understand that sometimes at a convention, like, we are back to back on certain things. Or like going to lunch, because sometimes we do have to eat.
What?
Nonsense. No, you don't eat until the very end after your last class is over. That's no lie. I've had conventions like that. I mean,
yeah.
I was helping Jim teach. He had a stupid amount of classes all in a row. It was all we could do for me to run down to a food truck and score some little something between classes. It's a real thing. People get in a rush, and I think people need to understand that if somebody doesn't pause and stop and talk to you, then it's not because they're a bad person.
No, it's because they're most likely busy. And most people will say, hey, I can't right now, I'm kind of busy, but get with me, blah blah blah. And most people are yeah, okay, that's cool, because we understand not everybody can do everything all the time, but that almost went bad. A little bit of courtesy goes a long way.
Yeah.
Type thing.
I'm really liking watching you paint this face, Yeji. Like the eye, and now all the little the highlighty mid-tone stuff coming in.
Yeah.
It really has a lot more dimension.
Yeah, it is. And the one thing that I tell people to, and this is for even just like faces, but especially for like chibi faces, go and watch drag makeup videos.
Oh, cool. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
They're sculpting their face a lot more than just regular women are, right? And so when you watch drag makeup videos, like, you actually see where the highlights are supposed to go, where you're supposed to put in extra shadows and things like that.
That's
So
a really good idea.
Yeji recommends watching Drag, guys. So go and watch
Yeah.
Drag. So it's into our 8 o'clock hour, and we are going to be working on media section. Do you still need to paint, or do you want to go back to your face cam?
Whatever.
It's up to you.
Good with whatever.
So I'm going to switch it over to our media section, which did y'all see? They do have footage of Bill and Ted 3 being filmed.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I just don't know what to think of that.
I'm going to wait. I'm going to reserve because, it could be anything. We have no clue.
Also, I don't get what... Like, I know John Wick was really successful, and now Keanu Reeves is the shit, and for like a million years, all through the 90s and the early 2000s, and even with the success of The Matrix, he was always the wooden actor who can't really act, and now all of a sudden everybody wants him, and I just don't get this.
Well, it's not just his acting, it's also his personal life. There's a lot of things that people don't know about Keanu that they're finding out about all
Like
the cool
children's hospital stuff.
Well, also
like he's actually a good person. It doesn't
Yes.
make him a great actor, though.
no, but I mean, there's just a lot of things that he does. I know that he donates a lot of money. He's given like the stunt people that worked on Matrix. He bought them all like Harleys or something. I mean, he's just done.
He's just a decent person. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And we're applauding him for being a decent person.
Yeah.
Everyone, just be more decent.
Yeah. And that's the thing is he's actually a really, really cool guy outside of acting. He does it, a lot of things he does outside of acting has been really good positively for not just him, but for the community and humanity as a whole. Okay, so I have, like I said, quite a few to talk about. Yeji. Kathy said she has nothing. She hasn't done anything all week, but...
I have not watched anything. No. The
So-
closest I got was playing Battlestar Galactica, the board game, last night with some friends. That's the closest I got to TV.
I have 6 things. Yeji, what do you have? How many do you have to talk about?
I mean, I have a couple that I could talk off with you. I have some anime stuff too.
Okay.
So
do you have any of
whatever you
the...
want.
The ones I need to talk about is Fairy Gone, Double Decker, Stranger Things, Creed 2, Bungo Stray Dogs, and Dumpling. Any of those that you need to talk about or anything you want to comment on any of those?
I haven't watched the newest season of Bungo Stray Dogs, but I love that show.
I've only watched I haven't finished the complete season yet. I've got a few more episodes to go, but I'm only watching it. Okay, here's the thing. Everybody knows that I am very picky on my anime. I can't stand super chibi stuff. I can't stand fan service stuff. I'm not very much into the cutesy stuff, and especially if it's over sexualized, fan service, I will not watch it. I just can't stand it. It's just not my cup of tea. And I have to watch it dubbed. I can't do subtitled.
What?
Yeah, I know. I catch a lot of hell for that.
Blasphemy!
And the reason why I can't is my brain can't handle subtitles. I'm too busy doing 20 billion other things that I have to listen to my anime just as much as I watch my anime because I'm just super busy.
You know
Yeah,
what?
I
That
get it.
totally makes sense. I could see that about you.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll sit there and pause it, when I need to go to the bathroom or do anything like that. But for me to just look at and read an anime, I can't do
Crimson
it.
says, so learn Japanese.
Yeah, I could do that too. And I get that. I have, like, people says, hey, the anime is so much better when it's the Japanese actors. I'm like, yes. I have
The
went and looked at...
intonations.
Yeah. There's much more inflection in the tones and so on and so forth. And I understand that. Nothing against it. I just, my brain can't handle it. You did say that you saw Dumpling, right?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and go with that one. I watched that today. It is on Netflix. It is a story about a girl that is a bigger lady, and her mother is a beauty pageant queen, so on and so forth. And so she runs all this stuff. And as I want to say payback, or just to give her mom crap, she is joining the beauty pageant for this small town, blah blah blah. And of course, she's a bigger girl. And she's got her best friend, which isn't a bigger girl, and then another friend that is a bigger girl, and then a girl that is... How would you... I hate to categorize, but I'm doing the stereotype because that's what the show's kind of... It's not stereotype, but, you know...
Well, it is about stereotypes and breaking them.
Yeah, it is. The feminist icon, I guess you could say, girl that's in it too. And it's about... It's a small town too, so it's not like, you know, big, you know, city life or whatever, but it is about this girl finding out who she was, the fights with her mother, and does have some comedic value. We've got some great drag queens in it that are great to watch and everything. It wasn't bad. I thought it was going to be better. I enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with it. It wasn't like this, you know... It's not going to score a 0 space herpes with me, which, Yeji, I think I did tell you how we rate our movies. Yeah. It's not going to be a 0 space herpes, but maybe pushing a 2, and maybe that's just because if you're not something you don't like, it's just not your show. But I mean, it wasn't a bad show. There was some great acting, great actors in it. There wasn't anything, you know, horrible about it. I was expecting a little bit more comedy, but it did lean more towards the serious side. Body imagery and expectations of women in those roles and doing those things. So I mean, it wasn't bad. It just, you know, wasn't, you know, a 0. So I gave it I would say pushing a 2 to 2.5. Definitely if it's not your thing. But I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. What did you think?
I think, yeah, I kind of found it funny that Jennifer Aniston is, you know, as I said earlier, kind of in those mom roles now. No offense to her. I mean, I grew up watching, you know, her movies and stuff like that, and I sometimes forget how old I am until I'm reminded. As I say this, no offense. Yeah, there's sometimes when the kids are just say something and I'm just like, wait, what? Like you don't know about this? Oh, right, that was my generation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those like feel good movies.
Yeah.
So,
it was.
Yeah.
All right, so we can get that one out since we got it together. All right, go ahead and give me... Actually, I'll go with one. I watched the new... Okay, you did Bungo Stray Dogs. I only got through most of season 1.
Okay.
Bungo Stray Dogs is about people that have special human powers. I can't remember what they call it. They call it a certain thing. And they fight other people that have strange powers. There is a Chibi-esque feel to some of this stuff because there's the crying river tears or, you know, the blood nose and, you know, scenes where you would think it would be an acting scene, but instead of doing, you know, the facial expression like typical artwork, it comes into the anime artwork where their eyes are really big and their teeth are super sharp and so on and so forth. Nothing wrong with it. Very Japanese anime style. I like it. I think it's got a cool story. I think the animation is pretty good. It doesn't rank on my 100% preference, but I'm going to watch the rest of season 1 because I'm watching it on Funimation. And of course I have to wait till the dubs is there. It's good. It's not a bad anime. I don't care for, like I said, the sharp teeth, big eyes, you know, anime feel of it. But that's just a personal preference. I like my anime a little bit more seriously drawn. It's doing the pushing the 2 space herpes because it's just a personal thing. There's some weird obsession with some of the characters. Like this guy wants to commit suicide all the time, and he's like, it's like the central focus point of the character, and you're like, what? And just kind of off throws. But I mean, it's not bad. I'm going to finish watching the rest of the season. What do you think, Yeji?
just making sure my mic's on. I really love that show. It has to deal with a lot of things that Japan kind of has to deal with right now, with a lot of people actually committing suicide and things like that. The not growingness of the lower generations, and then some of the personal interactions there are just, they're so cute, and I'm me cute. I love it.
So you give it 0 or 1?
I don't know. There are better animes out there than that. So I guess more of a 1.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Where'd my list go? Ding. Let's go one that you haven't watched, but I did watch, called Fairy Gone. Fairy as in the mythical creatures. This anime is about people that have mythical creatures inside their body that fight for them and with them. The setting is kind of a right before the the steampunk, mechanical revolution, I guess it could be, because there's like these coach wagons that still have, there's coaches and wagons that still have horses, but then there's some that are drawn by mechanical feet or whatever. Kind of somewhat like Full Metal Alchemist, but a little bit more far-fetched time period. It's drawn really well. The story is really good. I'm actually looking, I can't wait for the next few things, because it's actually coming out and it's dubbed right as soon as the episode comes out. So I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going into it. It's got a really cool story about people that want to capture and use fairies and fight in these wars. Art works really well. It's a pretty serious anime, so there's no chibi style to it. There's no, big gnashing teeth. It's, people die, so on and so forth. And it's a pretty more serious side of anime artwork. Voice acting is good. I have no problems with it. A lot of good characters, a lot of cool art in it, as in the fairies, because the fairies aren't just, these winged little creatures. Like this one guy, it's a fairy, but it's a giant beast of a werewolf that fights with them. So, I mean, they're kind of liberal with the word fairy, type thing. I liked it. I thought it was great. Maybe a 1, if that, but so far, what I've seen, I think it's first 11 episodes, 10 or 11 episodes, has been really good and solid. Highly recommend it if you like anime. I saw it on Funimation, the dubbed version. I'm sure there's, you can get subtitles if you're into that and have to have it.
That one's on Hulu as well, I believe.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
I liked it. I thought it was great. I was like, I could deal with more of this show because it fits what I like in an anime and what's going on. So, recommend 1 maximum. Other than that, really cool. 1 space RP. I guess we can go with one of yours then.
So I recently ended up watching an anime called Hitoribochi no Maru Maru Seikatsu, and it's Hitoribochi's life, or the life of being alone.
Okay.
And it's really cute in the feel-good way, right? It doesn't have much of the chibi stuff going on, although like the girls are drawn more in that roundish, cuter style that Chibi's kind of known for, the rounder faces and whatnot. But it's a story about this girl, Hitoribochi, like it's kind of a play on words too, because that's like being alone, right? But Bochi Hitori is a girl. She suffers from social anxiety, much like us. And she's only had one friend ever throughout elementary school. And in middle school, she and her only friend actually part ways, like to go to different schools. And the friend, she's outgoing and such, and she said, I'm not going to be your friend anymore unless you make all of your classmates your friend. So Hitoribochi is like, she is trying so hard now upon entering middle school to like find all these friends, and she's trying to make friends with her class before graduation. And so she goes through these stages of like no, this is my plan, like, of to not make friends now. And then, like, it's like plan A, don't go to school. Plan B, buy the school. Plan C, I don't know, things like that. And she speaks in front of the whole class the first day because you're supposed to introduce yourself in class. And she's like, my name, and she's all stuttering, is Hitori. And then she goes, bleh, like off screen. Like, it made her so nervous that she threw up. And so, like, it goes through her making friendships with all these girls that sit around her. And for me, it was kind of like, oh man, like that's like me. Like, even now, like, to make friends sometimes you're just like, oh crap, like, just social anxiety being there, and the judgment and all of that. So to me, it was just like, I could totally identify with her. Yeah.
Yep.
So space herpes, I think 0.5. Because I didn't actually cry in this, and I'm normally not a crier, but there have been some animes that have made me cry. If you want a list of that, I'll let you know.
The list of the animes that make Yeji cry.
Yes, and there's stuff that, like, Clint has cried on as well, just because of how very emotional and character development it is. That you're just like, no, yeah. So yeah, I think I give it 0.5.
Okay. Another one. Just a second, I got some paint on my brush I want to get off. Another one I watched just recently was Double Decker. Double Decker is an anime about this guy that wants to be a super cop. And there's these drugs that are going around called Anthem. And Anthem, if taken incorrectly or overdose, gives these people superpowers, and they're able to turn into these super beasts and, just kill everybody. And so there's like this, thing about it. And he wants to be this super cop that helps out everybody and does all this cool stuff and everything. And the reason why it's called Double Decker is because once he gets into the super cop group, they team people up with a rookie and a veteran, and it's called double decking because you're supposed to be watching each other's back, teaching each other type thing. And they go on these things about, helping each other out and trying to become friends. And there's a huge team. And it does have a comedy-esque to it. There are some comedies. There's comedic value in the show. It's not just complete seriousness. But it's not all serious, and it's not all comedy either. So I was kind of iffy about it. That's not funny.
No, it's funny.
In Comic Scotty Potty goes, an anime about a guy who took a dump in the toilet reserve. Double Decker. But I mean, it does lend itself to some seriousness, but it does have some good comedic value to it. There's a lot of good jokes and stuff said. It's pretty good. It doesn't hit like any like major, cool story plots, and it doesn't take itself serious. Some of the artwork is kind of like some of the girls are dressed up in the super anime style of, lots of pinks and frills and, that type of thing. But I mean, it all fits their characters. It's not just one person. It's not just, it's not done for fan service, if you know what I'm saying. It's pretty good. I recommend it. Maybe 2 space herpes because, some people just aren't going to like the comedy value of it. But I liked it. I thought it was good. But like I said, pushing to, but not horrible. Other than that, I recommend it. It's on, like I said, it's free. It's on Crunchyroll, so I mean, or it's on Funimation, so you can watch it, no problem. I liked it. I liked the style of it. It was kind of neat and stuff. What else you got?
I'm going through my anime because I have this thing on Anime Planet. Like, it's a site where you can like actually record like what you've watched and like how long that's actually been since you've watched anime like back to back. If you were watching anime back to back 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like how much of your life you would have spent on anime. And right now I'm sitting at like a little over 5 months. Yeah, Clint's at like 6 months, over 6 months, and I'm just like, how? But he has been watching anime 5 years more, at least 5 years longer than I have.
Yeah.
But go take another one because I don't remember. I finished a long one, but it's an old one and it's kind of meh. So I'm kind of trying to look for the newer good ones.
So let's go with the one that everybody binge watched on July 4th, Stranger Things 3, season 3.
Everybody except me.
And me.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that didn't. I'm just saying. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan because, one, it's during my childhood. I mean, 100%. This is during my childhood, so it hits home a lot. It was very interesting. They hit the time period as 1985, hit it just right with everything that happens, malls, the things that were in the mall. I was watching, I was like, oh, I remember when those used to be around. I remember when that happened. It was good. I think it was, in my opinion, I think it was better than season 2. They do some things that are really cool. I'm not going to, this is a spoiler free, so I'm not going to give any spoilers out for it. There was very few little downtimes and lags, to say, about the show. There was plenty of good said about it. I thoroughly enjoyed every episode. All the characters were great. Even there was a lot of new characters, a lot of people brought in, a lot of great scenes. Characters did a lot of growth. The final episode is amazing, and there is one scene in there that just blew me away, and it was just because of, I remember, this was, this is something that happened, and you could see kids doing this at that time and everything. There is a lot of stuff that I hope comes into the next season, because I was thinking about this, and I was like, who the hell just doesn't move away from this town? This is the third time something mysterious, dangerous, evil, and people have died like crazy in this town. Why aren't people moving away? I would have if this was something that happened in my town where, all this stuff. I'm like, fuck this, we're moving. There's 50 billion people have died in this town. Not really. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on. It is really, really good. If you're a Stranger Things fan, to me, I think it's one of the best seasons besides 1, but 1 has a nostalgia feeling to it. It does deal with growing up, which I think is good because, of course, the kids are growing up and they're starting to have things, my friend's growing up and has got a girlfriend. And we know how that affects, friendships between guys. There's a lot of growing up they do in this show. Emotionally and with kids and stuff that I really, really enjoyed. The last episode had a scene in there that just, I've actually watched that scene a couple of times because it was just so damn good. So highly recommend it. Zero Space Herpes. If you haven't binge watched it, go ahead and do it. Then come and message me so I can talk to you about it without spoiling stuff because I want to blab about it. Because I won't spoil because that's just, that's uncool. Highly recommend it. Get off here and go watch it now. And with that said, we hit 8:30 on the dot. I have one more to talk about. Well, I'll hold it for the next episode, and that'll be Creed 2.
Can you hold it that long?
I can hold it that long. I've got a huge bladder. Yeji, we want to thank you for coming on and talking about not only Chibis, but
thanks, Yeji.
For commission painting. If you want to meet her in person, she will be at Gen Con teaching classes, and she will be at Warfare Weekend teaching classes and hanging out.
And at ReaperCon.
Oh, yeah.
And at ReaperCon.
And at ReaperCon. I don't ever get to go to that. I think it was awesome having you here. Guys, if you like what you see, you can support us in any way possible. We have a ton of ways that you can support us and get stuff back if you want something back in return. We have plenty of that stuff. Also, Yeji, what is your streaming services and when are you on?
Yeah, so we are on more late nights now because of how Clint's schedule is. He's on the swing shift.
Mm-hmm.
So we are on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and every second and fourth Friday of the month. So this Friday as well, this coming Friday. And we're on from about 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to about 3 a.m. 2 or 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So usually sometimes the Eastern crew will catch us in the morning. But yeah, we have our 1-year stream anniversary this month. And so we're doing a ton of giveaways. So if you guys want to pop on over and enter into some of those, like we have some amazing things going on from our sponsors.
I just put the link up in our chat, guys. Go over there, hit that link. Go over there and hit a follow. Go over there and like them. Their team is pretty nice. They're pretty cool. They like to have a lot of fun. Also, hit that follow button for them. Say hi. Yeah. No, thanks, Adam. Thanks for coming in as we're about to leave. So, guys, again, thanks a lot for showing up. We appreciate it. Make sure you check out our Facebook page. We'll have some things coming up, and especially for the giveaway for Mechanica Studios. Also, we will be posting some stuff to Warfare Weekend pretty soon, so you can get ready for that and get some classes in and hang out with us. So, for More Than Dice, I'm Gonzo.
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Yeji from Snickerneck Studios.
Good night.
Bye. Ew, gin.
Wait, I love gin. It tastes like Christmas trees. How do you not? Lick it, man.
I mean, those needles are there for a reason, right? You use them as toothpicks afterwards?
Right. See, Yeji gets me.